Hi, this is Wayne Zell, and welcome to Blueprint for Wealth, a video cast that's meant to help you realize your personal dreams of wealth and freedom, and it features special guests and special content of interest to entrepreneurs and executives all around the country. Today, I'm welcoming my special guest, Jim Schleckser. Welcome, Jim. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks for having me, buddy.
A little bit about Jim. He's the best way I can describe him is he's a man for all seasons. He's a Renaissance man. He's a soccer player. He's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. My goodness. He is a level 1 sommelier, which very few people can achieve. And he's an engineer. And he helped, as a CEO, he helped grow and sell a company that was worth $1.8 billion. So he knows what he's talking about. And today we're going to be talking about three things, mainly how he got to write this fabulous book called Great CEOs Are Lazy. And it was written back in 2016. We're going to dig into that book because I use it as a guidebook for myself. Second thing we're going to talk about is the CEO project, which he leads. And it's a very interesting way of bringing peers together to help each other. CEOs help each other maximize their wealth and their utility. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is Jim's last book. I think it was the last book, called The Professional Drinking Book. And it's going to show us all how to drink professionally as opposed to being the amateurs that we are.
There you go. Who knew it was a job? I would have applied a long time ago.
I'd like to become a professional drinker someday. So first, a little bit about your background. How did you get to where you are today? I mean, what's your quick bio and how you arrived at the current stage?
Yeah, I mean, educationally, an engineer and an MBA, which a lot of sort of business leaders end up having ultimately. Did engineering briefly, thank God, because I'm a horrible engineer. Went into sales and marketing, went better at that. And then pretty early in my life, actually 29 years old, I started running companies. And I've run a series of companies ever since that time. So a capital equipment company, instrumentation controls company, telecommunication company, and then now the CEO project. And I've also kind of stepped into a few different firms that I invested in as well. So pretty broad range of companies that I actually run myself.
How did you become a CEO?
Gosh, well, the first job of a general manager was I was given an opportunity when I was 29 years old. And, I would say it was a giant mistake on the part of the guy who gave me the job. Because I made lots of mistakes, man. I mean, I was 29 years old. What do you want, right? But it turns out I was good at it. I learned it over time and I got better. And that's what got me in the job. And there's some element I really enjoyed getting things done through and with people. And that is a mark of a CEO. I didn't want to do a job all by myself. I didn't want to be an individual contributor. I enjoyed the intellectual stimulation of the job. I liked working with people. I liked getting a great outcome together. And, so it was a dang good job. And I like being in charge. I will admit that. That's anybody who takes that job and says they don't enjoy power, at least a little bit, is lying to you.
Well, ultimately, it led you to do a variety of things, but you wrote this excellent book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, back in 2016. And it says how exceptional CEOs do more in less time. The first question that came to my mind when I'm reading this book, and I've read it a couple of times, and I use it's right by my bedside. I have it, underlined, highlighted, et cetera. How can a great CEO be lazy? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the title was designed to catch your attention, which it did, right?
It did.
But the concept, and you've read the book, is that really great CEOs, and this was developed by talking to thousands of CEOs in the work that we do with advising CEOs. I could figure out if somebody was a really good CEO or a poor CEO in about 3 minutes. And one of the key questions was, how many hours a week did they work? And if the answer was 80 hours a week, unless there was something really exceptional going on, some massive acquisition or something crazy like that, then people that in a normal course of events work 80 hours a week, A, it's not sustainable, and B, they are not in control of their responsibilities. CEOs that were in control of their responsibilities were working, 40, 50, sometimes they pop out at 60 when they're traveling or whatever. And the key difference, what was the difference between these two groups of people? And it was that the people that were great CEOs and working more limited amounts of hours is that they focused on the things that really mattered, and they spent 30, 40, 50% of their time on what we call the point of constraint, or the kink in the hose, the thing that's going to dramatically change the business. And all the other baloney that we work on as CEOs, they minimized. And let me just go back for a second. I talked
Yeah.
about having an MBA. That is the fault of our MBA education.
What is
When
it?
I got my degree, what they talked about is stakeholders. And so as CEOs, we all have stakeholders, our employees, our vendors, our environment, our community, our banker, all that's our investor, all our stakeholders. So what CEOs go, I got this. I'm going to just peanut butter my time. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. Everybody gets 10%. Everybody's going to be happy. And that is absolutely not the way to get anything interesting done. What a really good CEO goes, I'm going to minimize all of that to about 20% of my time. I'm going to spend all my time on the one or two things that absolutely will make the difference in the business. But here's the thing. Once they're done working on the things that matter, you can only put so many hours on that stuff. And they go, okay, I'm not going to expand my hours needlessly. So I'm going home, or I'm going water skiing, or I'm going to chase my dog, or whatever turns them on. And that's what I mean by lazy. They're consciously not trying to work a lot of hours and still get the job done.
And do other things. Do their
Well,
passion.
hopefully. Yeah.
Become professional drinkers. when you say unkinking the hose, which to me is a fabulous metaphor. My first question that always comes into my mind, and I go back to the book and I try to refresh my memory, is how do you find the kink in the hose?
So, and the kink in the hose is this systems model that we've got. The idea is that in any system you can name, there's what the system is supposed to do. In the case of a hose, it's supposed to put water out the end of the hose.
Right.
But sometimes there's a kink in the hose, and the kink prevents the system from accomplishing what it's supposed to do. So the job is follow the hose till I find the kink, unkink it, and then the hose can do its job. Well, your business is a system just like a hose is. Somewhere in your business, there's a point of constraint, a kink in the hose. So our job as CEOs is to find the kink and open it up. And if you consistently do that, find the kink and open it up, you will dramatically improve the performance of your business with the minimum amount of time required to accomplish it. So how do you find the kink? So one of the things I talk about in the book is 5 hats. And 2 of the hats, the learner hat, and this is the hat where we're going to explore new things, meet competitors, go to shows, read books, all the stuff that we do to put knowledge into our noggin, and the analyst hat, or what I think I called the
engineer.
No. I didn't call it an analyst.
Oh, the architect?
No. Anyway, analyst. That's what I call it now. I don't know what I called it in the book. It was a few years ago. Oh, a learner and player.
Oh, so the player's the guy.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Both of these are under the heading of learner.
Okay.
Analyst is looking at documents, analyzing, gathering, doing spreadsheets. So it's data. Player, and that's all of the stuff I talked about before. I call that analyst now. It's learner in the book. Okay. The other hat you can wear to find the kink is player. And let's say, and that means go do the job. And by doing the job, you're going to pretty quickly figure out where the problem is. I give you the example I give here is if I was running a call center and geez, we're just not making our numbers. And I don't know what's going on. Like there's a kink in that hose somewhere. If I went and worked in that call center for 4 hours, taking phone calls, doing the jobs, I guarantee you that a good CEO would walk out the door and go, all right, I got a list of 10 things that I got to change, and that's going to fix the problem. Here's the problem. Here are the 10 things we're going to do to fix it. Analysts can get there too. Look at the numbers, call, we're on the call too long. We don't close at the right rate. Okay, that's what's going on. So you can do it from your desk with analysis, or you can do it through player mode. What I found is entrepreneurs and extroverts tend to like to go in player mode, like go do, be active. More introverted people tend to I'm going to analyze. I'm going to look at the documents. I'm going to figure out what's going on that way. And by the way, they both work. So either one's good.
Have you found that most CEOs are extroverts or introverts?
Well, they have a bias for action.
Okay.
So they tend to like player mode. Yeah. So even if they're introverted, they still want to go do, right?
Yeah. And do you feel that a CEO has to be able to wear all five hats, be the learner, the architect, the engineer, the coach, and the
Yeah.
player?
Yeah. So the other three hats that we talk about are architect, which is business model design. Am I in the right business, margin, pricing, all that stuff? Who am I
Mm-hmm.
selling to? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Coach, do I have the right people? Are they advised correctly? Are they focused in the right areas? And then engineer, the processes I use to run my business, which include everything from values to your IT system. Look, we all got gifts. Some things we're good at, some things we're not good at. Hopefully you're smart enough and have enough emotional intelligence to figure out which ones you stink at. And then you go hire somebody who's better than you at and let them do it for you.
There
So
you
I
go.
don't I don't think you have to be great at everything. I think you need to be like maybe passable at everything. And then if you're not really good, and that's the important thing, I'll give you an example. Like if
Mm-hmm.
talent was the issue, and I'm running like a services company, and I'm not the greatest interviewer, hirer, well, I'll go find somebody who is awesome at that and let them do that for me.
Got it. And in the book, you have a whole section on. It's under the learner section. Becoming educated, learning as much as you can about your competitors, about the industry, about how to operate a business, how to raise money, how to finance it. There's a section on building a board of
Yep.
advisors. Usually,
Yep.
tell us. The quote that really stuck with me is, "We are smarter than me," and that
Yeah.
is so true.
Yeah. I
The,
mean, unluckily I stole that quote, but it's
that's all
from
right.
I don't know who.
Whatever.
Um,
Artistry is stealing from somebody else. So it's
who's smarter than you.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that attributes to the idea that the more accurate mental model I have of the universe that I'm operating in, the better my plan will be, the higher probability of executing it. So, but we always need help, right? And the really smart people know that they don't know everything. That's what's really interesting about bright people. I mean, there's arrogance out there where they go, I got it. I'm more in the teaching mode than the learning mode. Well, good for you. But really good CEOs and don't. They're like, I am always willing to be humbled by what I do not know. And so in that regard, they say maybe it'd be great to have a bunch of really smart people around me as infrastructure for me doing my job to make me better. And that's where advisory boards come in. Napoleon Hill talked about it in Think and Grow Rich. He talks about building a mastermind group. Well, that's what advisory board is. And you are going to identify people with different skills to bring around you to help you think about problems in your business, issues, opportunities. And usually this precedes a formal board. So, sort of the normal maturity and evolution might be advisory board, but non-fiduciary, fiduciary board as we mature in an organization. But we start out with the training wheels on and we do an advisory board. Think about the skills that you want around the table when you build that board. I talk about, I think, a matrix in the book. And let's say I'm in e-commerce. I want somebody who understands China sourcing. I want to understand somebody who knows digital marketing cold, right? Maybe someone understands the space broadly, maybe worked for a competitor. So you think about all the elements I need to be smart at in my business, and that's the kind of people I want collected around me. So it's not, no offense, it's not your lawyer and your buddy and your roommate from college.
Right.
It's who would know things about what I maybe don't know enough about and would be able to show me things I don't know about and help me really pressure test my thinking. You can build your own and you're going to bring them together quarterly and pay them and so forth. And usually one of them's in a really nice location and to try to entice people to help you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also join a CEO peer group and we'll do it for you. So we'll get into that in a minute. I know, but I
We're
view
getting
those
ready to talk about
as
that.
I view those as competitive, right? If you're going to think about an advisory board, that's roll your own. There is an option to just go buy it on a variable cost basis from somebody else who does it for you, and that would be a peer group, a well-designed peer group.
Let's talk about that. The CEO Project is a well-designed peer group of CEOs that
We like to think so.
you initiated it years ago, and you've got people working with you all across the country. I understand, with peer groups all across the country. How did you begin to formulate this? I know there are other groups out there. I won't say the names, but there are other groups out there that try to do the same thing? Will they'll bring together quote unquote peers within, maybe not within the same industry, but CEOs in different industries that sit around the table and try to give you advice on, based on what your issues are, your problems are, on how to solve those issues and problems.
Right.
How does the CEO project work, and what would you think best practice is in this regard?
Yep. And I think you hit a key point of differentiation. When you're building a group around yourself, they have to have a diversity of views. There are like industry organizations where I get together with other people that look like me, like kind of grew up in the industry. We all experience the same, we all think the same way. And you're not going to get breakthrough thinking from that. But if you get, a finance person and a marketing person, and they really think about the problems differently, that's where breakthrough thinking comes from. I experienced CEO peer groups while I was running various organizations. I found them really valuable as I would pressure test my thinking or try to come up with new ideas. And I had a group of people around me that were tremendously helpful on that journey. I said, man, I love the experience. I found value in it. I talked about intellectual stimulation. It's massively intellectually stimulating to be in one of these. It's almost like being on a board, but like a board that you wish you were on, And so when I exited the corporate environment quite a few years ago, I looked around at, opening up a Dunkin' Donuts and all kinds of stuff. And I said, I really like that peer group business. And then that was what got me into it, and grew from 1 to 5. And now we have about 125 CEOs that we work with around the country, all different industries. We've got advisors that use the methodology I developed. The book talks a bit about some of that.
Yes.
And, it's been a great fit for me. And part of what I like about it, Wayne, is the ability to impact hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people's lives through better business being done by influencing the CEOs, right? Because think about all the people that work for the people we influence.
Yes.
We've made all their lives better. Maybe a little teeny weeny bit, but little teeny weeny bit times 500,000 or 1 million people, it turns into a real number. So that's what I really like about it.
How many CEOs typically get together in one group?
Yeah, so 8. And I think the key is we only start getting interested above about $20 million of revenue. And we have reasons for that below $20 million, you're really doing CEO and 1, 2, 3, 5 other jobs, marketer, salesperson, accountant. Yeah. And so once you get to 20 million, depending on the business, you now kind of have an executive team. You can truly be a CEO. So that's why we get interested at that level. We go up as high as 2.5 billion are our largest clients we work with. Mm-hmm. So we're a more sophisticated, for a higher caliber CEO than some of the other groups that are out there, not to pick on names. I think the key is the curation of the group that's around you. I think the size and complexity needs to be similar to yours. Why? Because the issues you face tend to repeat on size and complexity. And so if I'm with a small guy and a giant guy, and like the giant guy forgot my problems and the small guy hasn't even had them yet, right? But if they're all in that same band of size and complexity, like I'm trying to think about how to reformulate my sales compensation plan. Like, oh, geez, I did that a year ago. Let me just hand you my whole plan and you can use mine, right? That's what I mean by like it just accelerates the path. So that's one. I think the second is the rigor of the methodology. You have to have a rigorous methodology. And this idea of focusing on the point of constraint and not wasting our time with other stuff. We don't bring in external speakers. We don't do the rah-rah stuff. That's really impactful on your business. But part of the reason why a good curated group is important is I'm going to get an impact on my issue when I get my group to help me, but then I'm going to help you. It's kind of the quid pro quo of a peer group. And I'm going to go, oh, I love how Wayne deals with these kind of problems. I'm going to steal some of his style. I'm going to learn how to be a better CEO by taking some of what you're good at and incorporating to my style. So we kind of accelerate the pace at which you become a better CEO. And then the final thing I think is important is the advisor. And there are a lot of advisors out there that were, salespeople and marketers, and, maybe they got a coaching certificate. And I got to say, particularly as you're a larger company CEO, I don't quite know how you coach somebody you've never done the job before. I'm sure there are people that can do it. I just struggle intellectually with it. So all of my advisors are CEOs. I think that's important because, coaches, in fact, the coaching methodology they teach at the coaching, when you get a coaching certificate and people make a thing of it, is they teach you to ask questions so the client discovers the answer on their own.
Right.
Well, I've been through that process with people. And I'm like, for God's sake, just tell me the answer. If you know it, just tell me. And so we kind of take that view. Like, if I got the answer, I'm just going to tell you the answer. And you can take it for what it's worth, but I'm going to tell you what I think. As opposed to, gee, Wayne, what would happen if we did that? And let you come up with, I find it so frustrating personally. So the quality of the coach, the quality of the group, and the methods are really important, I think.
So greater than 20 million in revenue generally. Yeah. And if they want to get in touch with you, obviously, how do they get in touch with you about the CEO project?
You can hit the website, theceoproject.com, or you can email me at Jim Schleckser at theceoproject.com. And we'd love to chat. We're on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we're all over the place. But
yeah, no, I think it's an amazing thing that, you've got an agenda, you've got a mission, but you've also got a methodology that is unique. And the fact that the advisors that are helping your CEOs, moderate and mediate and work together all have done it before. And that's critical. I have to agree. If you haven't done it, how do you know what to say? How do you know what to do?
It'd be like
you haven't been in business.
Coaching you on being a better lawyer. Like, how the heck am I going to do that?
I don't know. I'm listening.
I got nothing, man. I got nothing.
I'm running a business too, so
I can help a little bit.
The last thing I wanted to talk about today was shifting gears a little bit. You came out with a book in, I think, 2020 or 2021.
Right in the middle of COVID, baby.
Right in COVID. Yeah, it's very appropriate. It's called The Professional Drinking Book, and it basically talks about being in social settings where there's alcohol involved, and how do you handle yourself? What do you say? How do you avoid looking like an idiot? But it's also a primer on helping people build their relationships through these social settings, and I think that's really unique. I've got a personal interest in wine. I've been reading about it and learning about it ever since my late brother-in-law, may he rest in peace, chastised me over the glass that I was using for the wine that I was drinking.
Oh, that's funny.
Years and years ago. So I was like, I got to learn about this stuff. So I started to learn about it, but I'm still not an expert. You're a sommelier. I mean, how did you go through that process to figure out to write this book? But first of all, why did you become a sommelier? What drove you to do that?
So I've always enjoyed wine, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I fell in with this group of guys that had these massive cellars. And I was just blown away by how much they knew about wine, Italian wine and California wine. And I'm like, I'm like, I brought a knife to a gunfight, man, here. I need to learn something. So I was reading the books, but I struggled to get it into my noggin. I mean, and people who know me will know that when I do a hobby, I don't just do a hobby. I like, So I said, I'm going to become a sommelier. I'm actually a level 2. I'm a certified sommelier. Wow. There's about 10,000 in the world. And I said, all right, I'm going to learn it. And there are 3 elements. There's the theoretical component. And there I ended up going to another kind of school called WSET, Wine and Spirits Education Trust. They're around the world. There's actually there's a very, very good school here in the DC area that I could point you to at some point. Capital Wine School. Very, very good.
Awesome.
And I went up through that to learn all my theory, and I probably read 60, 70 books on wine. And then the other the second section is tasting. And what sommeliers are able to do is what they call blind tasting. So you could give me a glass of wine within a range. I mean, it can't be crazy stupid, but within a normal range of wine. I should be able to look at it, smell it, taste it, give you the grape, the region, the age, the quality, and all the flavor profiles of the wine. And somms do that because when I'm describing a wine to you in a restaurant, I can say it's got lovely, red berries and crisp, crunchy fruit, and it's got nice tannins, well integrated, and it's going to go great with your pork with, reduction sauce, right? And you go, oh, that sounds great. I'll buy that bottle. They do it so they can sell the wine and give you a good experience. And then the third, and what I did there is I tasted with a tasting group in DC for about 2 years, a woman named Ellie Bechamel, who's an advanced sommelier. She's opened a restaurant called Aperio in DC. And she is a phenomenal som and educator. And we'd go 3 reds, 3 whites, 10 o'clock every Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning.
We spit.
Yay!
Well, when are restaurant people available? It's not at night. And they're still
Right.
tired in the morning. So like middle morning is perfect. And we'd taste, and you'd call the wine. Okay, I get this, I get this, I get this, and you name it. It's a Sonoma County 2018 Chardonnay.
Wow.
And
that's brilliant.
Well,
That's
and then she'll go, here's why you were wrong. And she would educate, or right, and she would educate you. And then the final bit was service. And there you are in the test, you're giving service to a master sommelier. There are only 250 of these in the world. I mean, they are, think 150 IQ applied to wine. That's a master sommelier. They're insanely good. And they're asking you questions while you're serving their table. And you've got a pace you've got to keep, and the accuracy of the questions and so forth. But I had waited tables in school, so I was pretty college. I was good at that. So theory, tasting. It took me about 2 years, tooth to tail, with a reasonable level of focus to become a certified sommelier.
How much time did it take you?
On a weekly basis, 10 hours a week, maybe for 2 years, sort of. But even then, when I took the test, I mean, it's a 50% pass rate test. And so I went up to New York to take it and there were all this.
That's lower than the CPA exam.
Is it?
Lower than the bar exam.
Well, to be fair, a lot of the people that take it are waiters who want to become sommeliers. They may not have the educational background of a CPA or a lawyer, to be fair. Okay. I know how to learn because I done it. And so I was maybe had a little advantage going into it. But even then I did the test, did my theory, did my tasting, then did my service. And they say, okay, we're going to hand out the diplomas for everybody who passed. And it's a very thin stack. I'm like, oh boy.
That's a relief.
So when they finally called my name, I made it. It's like, it was the biggest relief I've had in a very long time. I'm like, I don't want to go through this process again. I really want to end it, finish now. So
what do you mean by there's no bad wine?
Well, like pizza, like ice cream, is there bad pizza?
Yeah, there's bad pizza. Okay, well, I've had really bad pizza.
Okay. Is there bad ice cream? I don't know. I'm like, if you're drinking wine, you're with your friends, you're having fun, just lean into it. It's all good, right? Yeah. I think the thing that people get worried about is like, did I pick a bad wine? Am I going to embarrass myself? And my answer is, it's all about PQ. If I bought a $10 bottle of wine, I'm going to have it's going to taste like a $10 bottle of wine. There are things they have to do to make it only $10. If I buy a $50 bottle of wine, well, I darn well better expect a different experience. And if it doesn't deliver, it could still be way better than the $10 bottle and still fail to impress based on the price point. But generally for me, it's like, I'm drinking wine, I'm hanging with friends. Life is good, right? So
do you give us any advice on price points and what to look for in the book?
Well, 90% of all wine that's drunk in the world is below $20 a bottle. So, if you're in that $20 range, there's lots and lots and lots of good wines. I think as you go above that, you get more esoteric stuff, more artisanship, more, taste of the location, what they call terroir. Yes. And you expect more. And I do drink those bottles. So here's my quick advice. There are 7 noble grapes. Drink those. Drink those Old World. Drink those New World. I recommend this in my book. It's Jim's 14-bottle wine cellar, right? So get 1 bottle of each of the 7 noble grapes. I describe them in the book, but they're Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, so forth, Sauvignon Blanc. 7 from the New World, 7 from the Old World. Old World meaning mostly Europe. New World meaning kind of everywhere else. Taste them all. Keep some notes. And you will very quickly go, ooh, I like New World reds because they're big and juicy, and that's my palate. Great. Then buy more of that. You go, no, I like how refined the white wines are from Italy. They're from Europe. They're really elegant and tight, and I like them. Great. Now you know what you like. Go buy more of that. But I think most people don't even understand that basic, what grape do you like? What part of the world do you like? And I think that's an important first move in the wine world.
Last question on wine today is one of the notes that I saw in the book was how to tip a sommelier, and I never even knew you were supposed to tip the sommelier. So I was like, oh my God, well, I've committed many faux pas. How do you tip a sommelier?
Well, let's start with you don't have to.
Okay.
because they share in the
Yes.
economics of the table. And,
Okay.
you've probably gone to dinner where, the dinner was $300 and the wine bill was $500, right? So,
I have.
yeah.
Yes.
So they get a piece of that wine sale, so they'll be okay. But when somebody is like really plays with me and is really helpful and attentive, and on the way out, I do it in cash. I'll take 40, 20, $50. I'll give it to them. And almost always they say, you really don't have to do that. I go, I know you did a great job and I really appreciate it. And then that's it.
Awesome.
So
That's
just
good
do it in
advice.
cash, do it in later, but you don't have to. But I think if they do a great job, it's really deeply appreciated. The other tip, just real quick, is if you bring a bottle to the restaurant, which we can do in DC, not everywhere in the world you can, but if you bring like a really special bottle, it's, a birthday bottle or an anniversary bottle or whatever, and you'll have them, the sommelier, open it for you. You'll pay corkage for that. But if they're looking at it, they go, ooh, it's a 1980 Chateau Petrus. And you go, if you'd like to take a little taste and bring it in the back, please feel free. They'll go, ooh, really? Please be my guest. You just tipped the sommelier. Believe me, they are a happy clam.
Those are great guidelines. And I'd recommend everybody, first of all, if you're an aspiring CEO, you are a CEO and you need some help, read Great CEOs Are Lazy by Jim, because it's a fantastic book. And for a little bit lighter fare, read The Professional Drinking Book, but it's got great advice. You're a great writer and I enjoy your books. We've been talking with Jim Schleckser, who is a best-selling author, but he's also a man of all seasons. So he does have an author website at jimschleckser.com, which is, you can buy the books through there or go to Amazon and find everything there. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time being on the show today.
Thank you, Wayne. It was way fun. Appreciate it.
And you can get this video cast and podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, and stay tuned for my book coming out shortly, Your Multi-Million-Dollar Exit, The Entrepreneur's Business Succession Planner, which is due out very shortly. I can't give an exact date because the publisher keeps delaying me, but very excited about that coming out. And thank you for listening to Blueprint for Wealth.